let's take a piece of aluminum, we're going to powder coat it, and then we're going to engrave it away so it has a really nice high contrast look. We're going to do some new things in this video, including a new way to engraving and then how to deal with one of the drawbacks of the burr that's raised from this new way of engraving. Welcome to another Wednesday Widget, folks. It's the first video we're filming after we got back from the Bar Z Southern California Summer Bash. Had a great time. I thought I'd talk about that at the end of the video for folks that want to hear about that. I'm actually super excited for this video, and here's one reason why. One of the ways I got started in machining back in the New York City apartment days, for those of you that have followed the channel that long, is I made stuff. I made stuff for myself, for my girlfriend or fiance at the time, for my family, for gifts, and that kind of grew to coworkers or acquaintances or people in the New York City sort of community. And a lot of times what I was making were widgets, you know, cufflinks or little plaques or desk thing. There was a lot of engraving. And engraving is something I've always been fascinated. We just talked about it in the recent video we did on the pneumatic engraver, but we've got yet again another new tool, which you'll see here in a minute, which I'm really excited about. So we're going to take this aluminum, we're going to powder coat it, we're going to engrave it, and that raises a burr. I've got an idea for how we're going to take that burr off but not mess up the powder coat finish. So it should be really fun. But again, going back to how I got started is you made stuff, and when you can make stuff that you decide to make, it's easy because you kind of stay within your comfort zone. But when you start taking on requests from folks, even if it's not even for money, like when you're really getting started, it pushes you outside of your envelope. This is a great example. I had a customer who said, you know, here's this magazine article, and there's this little black logo right here. I would like to have that engraved. Well, usually nowadays, Google image search, you can find a really high-res image, which makes it easier. Couldn't find one for this logo, so I scanned it. So picture me walking over to my scanner, scanning this, and you get this image you see here. Then what do? You send it off to the internet. I don't have time, folks, nor am I good at converting scanned images that are rasters into vector images. So we use this site called Fiverr. You can see the guy that I use right here. The idea is you pay $5 for some service, and really it's like 10 or 11 bucks because you have to pay another $5 to get it back in the file format you want, and there's a service fee. But folks, $11 to get this back as a DXF file that's done well, totally worth it for me. One of the requests that we had from folks at the Bar Z Summer Bash was they love Fusion 360, please go slower. And I think what I didn't realize is that we have a lot of new entrants into CAD and CAM because of Fusion 360 and how affordable it is, and they haven't followed the channel for all these years and sort of progressed. They may be newer. So I want to keep the videos snappy. I hate slow videos, but I am going to try to be a little bit more thorough in where I'm clicking and the keyboard shortcuts and so forth. All right, in Fusion, we're going to go ahead here and click File, New Design. We're going to start a sketch, 2-point rectangle. If you don't have that there, you can click this down arrow and go to rectangle, 2-point rectangle. I want the blue to be pointed toward the sky. That's your Z positive, so that's this face right here. If you see that that's perpendicular to the blue line here. So click on that, and then I'll just click in the corner once, move my mouse out, and then I'm going to do a 3, tab over by 7, enter, enter, rectangle. That gives me that rectangle. Right click on this face. I'm going to choose press pull, click the face again, and just type -0.5, enter. And if you look, we now have a 3 by 7 by ½ inch rectangle. Let's save our part. We're going to save it as engrave video. And now what we need to do, this goes back to the part of Fusion 360 that's not intuitive to me because honestly, I'm still learning it. And we're going to right click on bodies and do create components from bodies. So now we have a component instead of just a sketch or body. That makes sense. Open up our data panel here, and I already have the text file here, but just to show you, all we would do is click upload and drag the DXF file that we downloaded from the Fiverr guy when he emailed it to me right over to there. So this file, I'm going to right click and choose insert into current design, and look at that. Now we've got our text. So let's go click here front so we see the part from head on. And by the way, to move around like this, I'm holding down Control and the middle mouse button. For me, that's clicking down on the wheel. That lets me pan around. And I'm just going to click and drag this over and go up a little. Let's see here. Now, the way Fusion works in the default settings is the further out you're zoomed, it'll click to the grid, and the grid is larger the further out you're zoomed. So if we zoom in, you'll see the grid gets smaller, and your grid snaps are smaller. Interesting. Sometimes I like that, sometimes I don't. But that looks good. Yeah, that looks good, and I'll just click OK. Now, I had only asked in the Fiverr job for the script characters. He actually included all this text here, which I don't want. So I tried to delete it. So you just click, highlight some of it, hit delete. Some selected object is read-only, cannot be deleted. Crap. Figure it out. Right-click and choose break link. Now, I had no idea that that was the option. Literally, I was just clicking around. But that did seem to do the trick. And now if you select all this, you can delete it, which is great. However, when you do it, so when you do it this way, you may risk deleting some of your other text. So the trick in CAD systems, seems to be most of them, is to drag left to right, and then you're only going to select things that you have fully selected. So see, we've got a little bit of the letter there hovered over, but it's not going to touch it. Whereas if you dragged right to left and you touched it, it would select it. So left to right, delete, boom, we've got our text. Click on model, cam, and then we're going to do setup. That looks fine for the Z pointed toward the sky. 2D trace. Trace means you're following the line and not offsetting it like you would with a end mill to when you're cutting on the side. In engraving, you're cutting with the center of the tip. And tool, we're just going to make a new tool here. So I will do tool number 175, cutter. We'll just do a chamfer end mill. It doesn't really matter. All I want to do is say that the tip length here is 0, so we have a sharp point. Excuse me. Feeds and speeds, we're going to do, I'm going to do a random number, a specific random number, which we'll come back to. And cutting feed rate, let's do 60 inches a minute. Fast, folks. Okay. Now check these filters so I can select the darn tool we just made. Here we go. Okay. Geometry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Click OK. And we're almost done, folks. I'm going to right-click on Trace, Edit, and what I want to do is do the uncheck chamfer. It defaulted to that because we created it as a chamfer tool. And under stock to leave, we're using a spring-loaded tool, so no radial stock. Radial is the radius or the side of the tool. Axial is sort of through the tool. So we're going to go down negative point, say 0.05 inches. Not going to engrave that deep. Again, spring-loaded. Click OK. One last thing I forgot when I was proofing this, right-click on Trace, Edit. Under the tool parameters over here, linking leads transition, turn off lead in and lead out. We want to come straight down into the tool path. We don't want to come in from the side. That gives us the points right on the tips, as you see, and we'll do a simulation. The simulation is going to look bad because of, you see, it looks like we're going way deeper than we actually are, but still you can see it's following the path perfectly on center, which is what we want. And you get the idea. You can jog forward or scrub forward here, which is huge. I love that. I didn't know about that until the Tormach open house where Fusion 360 guys did a little demo. So that was great. We'll use the SuperFly here. We want to clean up both of these faces. And it's not so much because the engraver, it's spring-loaded. It would handle it fine. It has to do with how we're going to remove the burr after it's engraved and powder-coated. Easiest way to powder coat something is to give yourself a spot to hang it from, which is what we're going to do here. Just drilled a quick number 4 hole. Just throw some fluid on there and power tap this bad boy with the flex arm. Wipe the part down real nice with acetone or a degreaser. You want the part clean. We're hanging it on this hook here, and that will let us preheat it for 225 degrees or so for just a few minutes. Not as important in the summer, but definitely in the winter you want to get the chill out of the part. And then we will quickly powder coat it and throw her in the oven for 400 at 20 minutes. Super easy, folks. All right, parts out of the oven. Take a look, folks. It's a great finish. I love powder coating. It's really durable, easy to do in the home shop. Lots of colors, relatively inexpensive. Don't have the fumes, so to speak. You can use a toaster oven. Big fan of it. Now, before we run the G-code, we just have to do one thing, which is turn off the spindle start. So I've got the G-code open. File, edit G-code. And you see the line here that says N70 S3475. I like that specific number. It would let me search. I'm just going to hit delete or backspace. It would let me search to see if you had a long program to make sure it doesn't turn on anywhere else. It doesn't. I know it's not going to here, so we're all set. So just save that, and we're good to go. So what's the tool? It's the Tormach drag knife engraving tool. They also make, I think, a drag knife to cut vinyl. That's different. And I just got the tool. I saw it at their open house. It's awesome because you can engrave really fast, like 60 or more inches a minute. But it leaves this burr. So what's the idea? Well, let's get this part flat again. That way we can run over it with the SuperFly, but stay a few thou above the powder coat. And I think, knock on steel, we can actually knock that burr off, but leave the part looking pretty damn good. So I've got my Heimer in there, and I'm actually on 0. So let's just jog across. And we are moving, but if you take a look, what is that? 2 thou across that much. I wish it were dead on. I think that's going to be. I think that's going to be okay though. We can actually always adjust it after we engrave it if we really have a problem here. So let's throw in the drag knife, and it's quite simple to 0 because it's really not that precise, of the depth at least. So I don't want to ding the workpiece. I'm just going to come down, touch off, and then hit tool 175, hit Z0, come up, and I think we are good. I was really mad at myself. I did a quick customer part right before I started filming this Wednesday widget with the same tool. We had to do an engraving, and gosh darn it, I zeroed it with the wrong tool number, and I crashed this Pro diamond tip into the part. I hit spacebar, which in PathPilot stopped instantly, but I think it didn't improve the quality of the diamond drag knife or whatever the drag tip is. It looks okay, but gosh, I was really mad at myself. Look at this, folks, how fast that is for an engraving. Look at it, beautiful. Don't run this off the edge of the part. You saw we're really close to the X, the end and then the beginning here, and that will crash that tool if it springs down. But folks, I mean, look at that pop. And honestly, the burr isn't that bad. Man. Well, we're going to try it with the SuperFly and see if we can still knock it off, because that was kind of the point of the video, to try. But I love this thing. If this does not go well and ends up dinging into the part, you are going to see a John Saunders who's not very happy. Hopefully it goes okay. Yeah, we gotta have some fun. Okay, touch off and then page down. A lot of times I'll page up the first time just to make sure I'm not still in rapid mode and you crash into the part. Okay, so that's the piece of paper. So that's going to tell me 47. I'm 0.0045. I'm straddling the camera. So let's go. I just want to go over to the other side of that part and just make sure. If I'm at 4.5 thou, I want to make sure I'm not going to touch the powder coat. Doesn't seem to, so let's jog back up and over. I always go left to right, probably for no justifiable reason. And back down, we'll do it MDI here, G01, Z 0.0045 F10. Spindle forward, no coolant. God, I hope this goes okay. Pucker factor. See if you can hear it. No. Can't hear it. Well, yeah, I see something. You're gonna have to trust me. I'll run my hand across it after it's done to tell you if it's better. Scouts on. Oh, you hear it. There you hear it. There you hear it. So the reason we SuperFly this to start with was not only to clean it up, but extrusion like this usually has some warpage or flex. Now, the great thing about the spring-loaded engraver is that'll easily accommodate it, but, now hold on, page up. What we don't want to do is have it mess up now when we're SuperFlying the burr off. Oh, folks, win. I mean, yes, win. I could not do that before without hurting myself. Awesome. Folks, tell me that does not look awesome. I know that the script itself is kind of hard to read, but it looks, here. We went from that logo to this beautiful, I mean, this thing looks damn good. It looks really nice. I think that turned out great. Super easy. Fiverr to get somebody else to do the heavy lifting for 10 bucks or 11 bucks on exporting or converting that to vector geometry. Fusion 360 makes quick work of the trace. The Tormach engraving tool means you're engraving this in 60, 80 inches a minute instead of 2 inches a minute like we do with our ball cutters or straight chamfer cutters. What a win, folks. So as always, folks, thank you for watching. Stay tuned if you want to hear about the Bar Z event. Otherwise, I appreciate the thumbs up, subscribing, the enthusiasm around the channel. I love doing what I get to do. It really is great, folks. Take care. See you soon. Bar Z Summer Bash. So Stan, who runs Bar Z and a YouTube channel, is sending an email around. I think it was based on a lot of the folks that are helping out with Keith Fenner's What's in Your Toolbox project. And I knew some of the names on the invite list, but I didn't know a lot of the guys. And I kind of thought, you know, California, and then I was like, you know what? Come on, John, look into it. Found a cheap Southwest flight that was super easy on connections, and I thought, darn it, let's do it. That's what life's all about. So what a great time. Thanks to Stan for hosting. It was open to the public. We had well over 100 people turn out. There was a great energy from the viewers there. I didn't know a lot of the other guys, and it was kind of, you know, it made me feel a little self-conscious. I knew A-Bomb79, Adam was there. He and I had talked before but never met. I knew of Tom Lipton. I did a book review on his book and had, you know, emailed with him a time or two, but, you know, we weren't friends. And then a number of other guys that run great channels that, look, I just didn't know, and that's my own fault, but I'm glad I met them. James Kilroy, Randy Rogers, Ray's Garage, the list goes on. I'm going to include in the description a lot of the guys' channels, so if you want to check them out. A lot of them were manual machining. Keith Rucker, older equipment, but awesome stuff, folks. In addition, of course, to A-Bomb and Ox Tool. So it was great to put names with faces. We were talking shop. We were talking about some of our YouTube, you know, the analytics and the methodologies behind how we comment and engage the audience. It was kind of fun. The event itself was great. It was hot but dry. There was a great like swap of all these tools. I learned a ton. I did a layout competition that Tom Lipton ran, which I'm going to do a video on with Tom's blessing, because really some good stuff that I learned there that will be very valuable, and I think all of you will enjoy, and we're going to try to turn it into something that's viewer engaged. I had a great conversation with Tom about 4140. I was like, explain to me all the different types of 4140. And we had this great conversation. I think some other folks, you know, had some myths dispelled as well. I wanted to talk about that later in a video. I'll come up with a reason to do a video on 4140 for it. You know, we talked about measuring tools. Stan makes these really cool squares that you use to square up parts, which I loved, and grinding, and where you use granite plates. And it was kind of like being an apprentice in a real machine shop for a day or two, because you had access to all this talent. And so hopefully Stan will do it again next year. I would encourage everybody to come. I'm going to steal some of Stan's ideas for our open house, which we're planning to do again next year, probably in May. Because it was a real win and a real success, and it's fun to see this internet, YouTube side of the world come into real life. Thanks to everyone that came and introduced themselves and watched our channel. And one of the biggest requests I had was, thank you, John, for the Fusion 360 videos. Slow down, which is what we tried to do in today's video, and we're going to do some real basic Fusion 360 intro videos so that everyone can follow along, whether you're using it for just CAD or the awesome cam side. So that was that with folks. If you have any questions, let me know. I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, take care.